Kia ora, e te whānau, ko Hayden Blucher toko ingoa. My name is Hayden Blucher from the Building Institute, and welcome to today's Industry Insights. It's a 45-minute deep dive into today's topic, which is AI in action, what boards and executives need to know now. Thank you to you all for joining us today. You will be able to view the recording of this webinar in the resources tab of our website, which is buildinginstitute.nz. And before we get started, I do just want to quickly run through a couple of upcoming Institute events that are taking place. So tomorrow we have our Built Environment Career Streams webinar. This is where we'll be launching new tools and guides to support career growth in construction, great for newcomers, career changes and leaders. This webinar will be at 12 o'clock till 12:45, and we would love to have you all there. On the 31st of October, we have our Southern Region Golf Day, which is returning to Christchurch. This is a sold-out event bringing together contractors, suppliers, designers and trades for top-tier networking and fun. Again, we hope to see many of you at that. It's meant to be a great event. Fingers crossed for some good weather. If you are interested in coming along to any other events, please do head to our website, which is buildinginstitute.nz, and you'll be able to find the list of events there. So today I am pleased to welcome our two speakers. First of all, we have Maria Mingallon. So Maria is Mott MacDonald's AI lead and knowledge and information manager for the Asia Pacific region. She serves as deputy chair of the AI Forum NZ and chairs its AEC Working Group, helping shape the future of AI adoption across the built environment. So welcome, Maria. And then we also have Justin Flitter. So Justin Flitter founded NewZealand.AI in 2017 to help businesses discover why, where, and how to leverage AI. He's one of New Zealand's leading AI for business advisors, speakers, and trainers. Great to have you both speaking today. Just in terms of today's webinar, we do have 5 topics that we will run through, and there is a Q&A function. So please put any questions in that, and we'll do our best to answer either as we go or we'll have a bit of time at the end. So on that, I will hand over to you, Justin, to start us off.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. It's nice to be here. Nice to see you all. So I guess the first question is why are we hearing and seeing companies in the construction space starting to invest in AI? And I think over the last probably 9 to 12 months, I'd say 60% of our work in the advisory space is with construction and related businesses. It's quite remarkable how fast these companies are picking it up, and it's a lot of it has come down to the events that Hayden, you and the team have run and that we've all been at over the last kind of year around the built environment kind of space. So what I'm hearing is that companies in the construction space have been hamstrung over the last few years, right? Everyone's been struggling for work. There's been a bit of a slowdown, but there's some green shoots on the horizon. And a lot of these companies are starting to look ahead and thinking about how do we build capacity and capability in our team to be able to grow more effectively, and that aids into productivity. So we can try and win back a few hours every week per employee by using these tools so that we can focus on the higher value work. So looking to those repetitive tasks. And there's also a degree of competitiveness and relevance. So if we are not investing in AI skills and capability, and our competitors are, how on earth are we going to be able to be relevant to our customers, competitors, employees in the near future if we are laggards in that space? And so those are definitely some of the key drivers that I'm hearing.
Yeah, I like to that as well. I think we've been looking, actually doing research on the market as to what competitors are doing, what organizations in the sector are doing with AI. And I guess for simplicity, there are really 2 scenarios that are possible. And one is that there's just like a linear adoption of AI in the sector or an exponential one. And while we don't necessarily have a crystal ball, it's very, very plausible. And myself, I am already feeling it in the number of questions that we're getting, in the number of requests for, hey, how do I use AI? How do we adopt it? That it's more going to be an exponential scenario, which really means, like Justin, you just mentioned there, around relevance. And it's not just only about productivity. Right now, in this very moment, it is about productivity very much, the conversation, but it's also about what's next and how do we remain relevant and competitive in that exponential scenario. Which obviously, if you are feeling that you are behind, don't waste any more time, because the time that you spend just I guess wondering or being blocked by not knowing what to do, competitors are already out there really working into the adoption, not just experimenting with AI. And I think today we are hopefully going to give you all some practical tips, not just theories, about how to adopt AI in organizations in the sector. So yeah, maybe the next point that comes naturally in that relevance as well is the type of talent that you can attract to your organizations. Justin, I don't know about you, but I think I do see more now the relevance around attracting people who are curious to use AI, because they're naturally people who would ask questions. And a lot of the good use cases of adopting AI successfully, I think, are about prompting AI well and about asking questions and not just getting lazy into, I'm just going to use it to do less.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think people want to be effective and successful at work, right? They want to be doing a really good job. They want to feel good about their work. They want to be recognized. And if these tools are going to help them, empower them to be better at the work that they're doing, they're going to use them. And they're either going to use them under the table as shadow AI, which no one wants, or they're going to be supported by their employer with, here are some tools, go through this process, figure out the use cases, determine the tools, so that we're running a fully supported and engaged program that's got the policies and guardrails in place and things like that, so everyone's making informed choices. And so companies that are leaning in, that are enabling their workforce to be leveraging these AI tools, are going to attract people that want to be successful, because they know that they'll be more effective and more successful in that company versus one that's going, no, we don't want any of this. We're going to take a watch and see approach or something like that, and they'll just never be able. Those companies will just never be able to catch up.
Yeah, actually, I think you just touch upon a very important aspect, which I think we're planning to talk about later on, which is responsible AI, or what approach are you taking around AI to really avoid shadow AI? I think one of the aspects that we found incredibly important is to actually decide what approach you want to take to AI. In the case of Mott MacDonald, we've gone for responsible AI, which really means that you are putting the right foundations in place to use AI ethically, safely, but also sustainably as well. Quite relevant to just today. Yesterday, we actually rolled out a large number of new licenses for Copilot, Microsoft Copilot, which is one of our pre-approved AI solutions for the whole organization. And I think it is important to note, not necessarily everyone would agree with using AI, and you got to bring those people as well along the journey and explain to them, for example, why we've chosen this particular tool to enable safe use of AI, and also use the opportunity to actually burst a lot of myths that are out there around the use of AI, or AI is training on our data. Well, not every AI tool is doing that. You need to read the terms and conditions, or you need to get informed as to the safe use of AI tools.
Yeah. And I mean, that's getting us into, how do we actually win the trust of our employees and our customers and regulators and every other stakeholder, so that we actually achieve the adoption rates of this new technology, so that we can actually get that ROI out of it, right? No one's going to get any benefit out of this technology if people are unsure, concerned about trust, don't know how to use the tools, right? And I think there's so I'm interested in what you're hearing, seeing around adoption in the space, because my gut feeling is there's still a lot of people using these tools as a Google search replacement, and maybe crafting a few emails and those sorts of things. But at the other end of the spectrum, there's these fast movers that are just leaning in and really pushing the boundaries of what's possible today. But adoption for me is not just having a free ChatGPT account. It's actually, how are we embedding AI into our everyday workflows, right? And Copilot's going to help. I mean, it's an enabler, but without the right training and support, you're giving people the keys to a Ferrari without knowing how to drive.
Yeah, that's right. So I guess maybe taking a step back, definitely agree, like just using AI doesn't mean that you've adopted it, because I think adoption is about value realization, and that's really what we've been asked to demonstrate. It's like, okay, shiny tool, AI sounds good, but what's the value that you're actually bringing? Part of it is time that you save, and we actually have people telling us what that looks like, and also measuring against some of them, in our case for Copilot, some of the Microsoft embedded metrics within Copilot. But also, again, it's not just about I save time, okay, I go have a coffee. It's about what else have you enabled? Like, are you able to deliver something of a higher quality to our clients? Are you able to do it faster and they're happier because they're getting it on Wednesday as opposed to waiting until Friday? Has it actually impacted your well-being and satisfaction in the workplace, which is something, and it's one of those things that is not perhaps that easy to measure unless you actually ask for people, how do you feel, right, about this tool? And I think, to me, that's one that is going to link back to the talent that you're able to attract to your organization. People who have made AI a companion to their day at work, and they're finding that it's actually boosting their confidence level, their well-being. They really have been able to walk away from the mundane tasks that usually would occupy their day and make it boring. And that's, I think, so all of that to say that it's really important to define what adoption means to your organization, and spend the time setting out the KPIs that you want to that you can practically measure, and that are actually going to give all of the people using the tools and adopting them the sense that they are part of something bigger as well. One of the things that we do, since we get people to, like, we give a license of Copilot, for example, is to actually make them aware of the KPIs that we're measuring and how we are socializing them with our general managers in the business, so that they're part of that community that it's building, the actual value from the tool. And also something that I find quite interesting is we're using play. We're using a gamification strategy to actually uplift the adoption of the tool, because we also don't think that it's just about how many times you use it a week, and to some extent, what use case you use it for. It's also about sharing that knowledge with others and sharing the use cases and getting to know other use cases, sharing tips. Because this, I think, different to other software tools or other tools that we've used in the past. I'm sure, Justin, you agree that the rate of change in the AI tools and the features, it's exponential. It's every day, pretty much, there's a new update or a new thing out there, isn't it?
Oh, look, I was just saying, OpenAI just launched the new ChatGPT browser called Atlas today, right? And it's, I mean, I've been using the Perplexity Comet browser
Comment?
for a few weeks now, and it's my default browser, and I absolutely love it. Yeah, the battle over the browser and integrating, agentic functionality into your browser to do multi-step task and advanced reasoning and things like that. It's yeah, it's every day is something new, and I think that's kind of, yeah, it's fun times, that's for sure, but daunting for others.
Yeah, isn't it? I mean, I think it can be quite daunting, actually. And I don't know what your thoughts are, but most of the time I do think that people are overwhelmed because of the number of AI tools out there, the number of new features, and often they think that it might be best to get everyone to try a lot of different tools for a lot of different use cases without any strategic thinking about one, where it would make sense to maybe build something custom versus where you might want to use an off-the-shelf tool and focus on the prompting aspects. I would say, for example, when we did this exercise internally at Mott MacDonald, we've also been helping client organizations. We look at mapping the organization in terms of what is it at the core that the organization does to make money, and what are the supporting functions. And we often find in the core of what you do is probably where you want to develop something custom with AI that the rest of the market can't offer. But in supporting functions is very much it's very, very likely that you're going to be able to find an off-the-shelf AI solution where you can just focus on prompting it well, giving it the right context, and then start making good progress with it. But I don't know, what your views are, Justin, because you've also been helping organizations outside of our sector, so maybe you can also bring some of those insights.
Yeah, I mean, look, I again, I go back to, what's the problem that we're trying to solve, right? And thinking about those use cases and what's going to add, measurable value to the business. And those are the only ways that, we're going to get the investment and the buy-in from senior leadership team, and also the adoption from staff, right, across the board. Is we have to be able to showcase value, and that it's going to help people be more effective at work or deliver a better customer experience. There has to be some tangible aspect, and we have to, like you said earlier on in the session, we have to break down those misconceptions around job displacement and those sorts of things, and the whole, oh no, management's talking to the AI company, we're all doomed. Well, actually it should be, we're really excited that we're talking to the AI company, because there's a bunch of stuff that I'm just not that good at, or just don't want to have to do anymore, that would free me up to spend more time with customers and win win more business, or smash through that backlog of tasks which are sitting in my to-do list for the last 6 months, right? So it's framing up that narrative, and approaching it in the right way, so that we're getting buy-in.
Would you recommend starting with the leadership?
Look, I think yes, I do, because if your senior leadership team aren't using the tools and don't see value, it's going to be really difficult for them to see how everyone else is going to be able to use it, right? There's often a pincer approach. There's often somebody that's using AI tools somewhere in the business because they're a fast mover. They're using AI, shadow AI tools to get things done, or perhaps there's a little AI working group that's been developed within a team, right? And so they're just starting to work on some pilots and think about things. And that's a really good way to kind of create a little innovation team around AI. They've got some domain knowledge. They've got support for IT to connect up data sources. They can start working on building agents and workflows and understanding the right way to prompt for that business. And then be able to start sharing it and scaling it out, right? And maybe that's the way that we then present that back to the board or the leadership team and go, here's what's possible. Here's what we can do. So there's, both ways are highly effective.
Yeah. It's interesting because at least in Mott and MacDonald, we started with the leaders getting access to the licenses at first, but it was primarily based on the fear, I guess, of more junior members of the staff not understanding the risks of AI. And we didn't have a lot of training on responsible AI at the time. So we had to build all of that in parallel, but this was like 2 years ago. So it's been, it's rained a lot since then. But one of the things that we're currently running is actually training for execs. So really briefing senior leaders who have little time about just the exact amount of information that they need to understand AI and to support any AI adoption rollout.
Yeah.
We also,
and I think that's really important, right? You've got to be able to do that at a leadership team. Like we've got our exec AI briefing, and then you've got to do something for everyone else, right? A lunch and learn or something like that, so that everyone's got a common understanding of what AI is and what is it capable of today, and some examples of how people in their role and their industry are already using AI, demo some of the things so they can see just how easy it is, and then that breaks down the whole myths around AI is going to take my job, because they realize it's actually far better at just doing some focused tasks, and it doesn't have the EQ that they have to, which is vitally important. And once everyone's got that grounding and knowledge, then they're going to start going, so can we use AI to do that? And can we use AI to do this? And all of a sudden those use cases start, bubbling up, and you, before long, your roadmap is, an arm and a leg long, and you've got, prioritization challenges, right?
Yes. But at the same time, we've been running a lot of lunch and learns, fortnightly knowledge shares for both full license Copilot users and the enterprise-wide one. And also we've got our custom AI knowledge assistant. The trouble is you often find those who are already curious about the tools and they're going to come to those events, they're going to share and they're going to participate. But how do you actually attack those places of the population of the staff members who are saying no to AI? Is it worth it even?
To fight people who are to work with people that are providing some pushback on these things. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, I mean, look, within any group, there's going to be people that are that have got. I mean, most of the time when I hear this is that people have formed an opinion about AI 2 months ago, 3 months ago, 6 months ago, which is just obsolete today. And that opinion is sometimes quite hard to break. And given the pace of change, what people believed about AI, 2 months ago isn't relevant today. And we've got to break that down. And the best way to do that is actually to sit them down in front of some of the tools and show them, right? And go through it and get them using the tools and just seeing how capable they are.
Yeah. Like I think we've found that one of the most effective ways actually run a quiz of like myth booster, around Copilot or AI tools. Does it train on my data? Is, for example, one of the questions that people think Copilot is training on their prompts and their data. And is my data going somewhere and getting stored somewhere else where I can't see it or I can't control it, or is it breaking this rules kind of thing. I agree with you. I think it's something applicable, like this idea again of building trust, and building trust doesn't mean that you just trust it all blindly without understanding at all how it works. It really means that you trust it in the same way that you these days trust the result on a calculator, right? In like when calculators were out, there were probably a lot of people who just thought it was kind of like magic, and they wouldn't actually trust the result that was shown on the screen. I was talking about this with my husband yesterday, actually, over dinner. That he's a bit older than I am, haha. He was telling me about like how he actually saw people at university that were like, no, you need to declare whether you're using a calculator or not for taking this exam, and it's almost like you're gonna be marked out if you use a calculator. That would be so crazy these days, right?
Yeah.
To think about doing something like that
Or
with
like,
a calculator. We kind of allow it with AI.
Or think back to when email first arrived, and all of a sudden you come out of university and you get into the law firm or the accounting practice, and it's like, here's your email platform, and people are like, oh, how do I do this? And who can see these emails? Like, who's got access to all of this stuff? It's like it's just this whole new world of how we engage with technology, interact with the web, communicate, create content, and deliver value, right? Creating value is really where it comes back to, right? How do we create value for us as employees, for our business, for our customers, and how do we, if we can use technology to create value, to create better value at more effectively and more efficiently, then we're going to be more competitive. It's really as simple as that.
Yeah, and I think it's very much about sharing those success stories as well as when it doesn't work well. But effectively, what we've seen is we use a lot of this regular knowledge shares to capture use cases and to actually socialize them with the rest of the people who are not yet using AI, so that they get to see what it could be used for, which I think it's again also what makes AI real, and help us capture the value that it brings. I don't know what kind of use cases you've seen, Justin, out there that you are helping some of the client organizations with. I do have a few, but I'll let you go first.
Oh, look, there's tons of really great use cases, right? So there's two that I'll kick off with. So one was for a property maintenance company. So they've got contractors out all around the country doing repair work on rental properties. The contractors have to remember or get the right job code to put on their paperwork to get paid on time. And of course they don't. So that creates all of this reconciliation, this back office admin that the company has to do every month to make sure that they are paying people correctly. So we created an agent, a chatbot deployed in WhatsApp that allowed contractors to use text or voice in any language to ask the tool, what's the job code for installing a water cylinder? And the tool would come back and go, is it gas or electric? It's gas, okay. So here's the job code, and here's the standard operating procedures and the health and safety guidelines for installing a gas hot water cylinder. So you're increasing compliance, safety, you're hitting, lots of different birds. So, that's super, super practical. And the net result is it's reduced that back office admin by 50 hours down to about 10 hours a month. So freeing up an FTE equivalent to be doing something a little bit more useful than checking paperwork, right? And then the other one is really around meetings, right? And so meetings are that moment, that real-time moment where you can start capturing knowledge. And in organizations, we employ all of these siloed data sets. They're all stuck up here. People just have all of this information about projects and IP and customers and all of the stuff that's just stored in their brains, which is quite often quite hard to access, right? There's no API into it. If you ask someone a question, it can take them a few hours to get back to you or consider their answer. And so if we can use these AI tools to transcribe voice to text in these meetings and then create summaries and action items, but also save that transcript as part of our company brain, save it in the project file for that project, so that if you leave or someone joins your team, they can use Copilot to just go, hey, I'm new here. Can you give me a lowdown on where this project's at and what's been happening over the last 2 weeks, and perhaps a couple of tips on what I should be doing first? And instead of having to go around and talk to everyone and taking 3 days to get up to speed, you're hitting the ground running much, much faster, right?
Yeah, I think those are great use cases that you've helped enable. I'll share a couple as well from our side. So two areas where we focused on developing custom AI solutions have been our Mott platform at Mott MacDonald. So one of the solutions helps people calculate carbon footprint for their projects. And in the past, it would work that you bring in models, you get the carbon footprint, the actual per item, you get really nice dashboards that you navigate through, and that's great. But what we've actually enabled now is that you can chat with the data through a GPT effectively. So you can actually interrogate what you're getting. You can help brainstorm how you can actually reduce the carbon in some areas, or what would be the option most likely to most visibly be able to lower the carbon. So those are just ways in which, again, I don't think in this case it's necessarily about cutting down the time that it takes to do something. It's more about amplifying yourself with more information by asking the right questions and having the ability to even ask the questions of the data. The other one that I think it's quite relevant to mention is stakeholder engagement. So stakeholder feedback for those of you who perhaps work in large projects, transportation corridors and the like are often quite the volume of data and unstructured data in most cases is such that it just becomes very much unmanageable. So what we've done is use AI to do sentiment analysis in the feedback received. So one, yes, you do cut the number of hours that it takes to get to feedback that is organized and that can be actioned by the project team. But at the same time, what we've noticed is that this ability help our team amplify their attention. So perhaps comments or feedback that was in the past given was simply missed or not given the right attention, just because the human capacity is limited. And with AI, we do have the opportunity, if used well, again, like, there is a lot of in there assumed in terms of using it safely, ethically, with data privacy in mind and all of those aspects. But again, if used well, it can really help amplify everyone's voice. Yeah, and I think you mentioned a few other use cases using For example, in our case, Copilot for bids, not just for writing bids, which, by the way, I find is a bit of a complicated area, because we've heard people are starting to say that all bids are feeling and hearing the same. And I think that's a little worrying. But also from the point of view of checking if you've actually followed the criteria that it was asked for in the bid, and if you've actually addressed all of the points that the bid was asking, which is often very subjective if you use a human, while an AI, again, if you prompt it well, can be quite objective.
Yeah,
How are we
great.
going, Hayden?
Yeah, very good. We do have time for some questions. So if anyone on the call does want to add any questions in, we can read those out and you can answer. But, just a couple of things from me, and this is going right back to the start when you were talking about, wanting to hire companies, and more so these days wanting to hire people that are curious about AI. In terms of people that are leading companies, or you're hiring people at the moment, do you have any advice on, how a company might be able to incorporate AI or understanding people's curiosity into a recruitment process? What are some things that they could be looking out for, or potentially tasks that they could do?
Yeah, I mean, look, we used to have must have Microsoft Office skills. Now we must have AI skills. So I would I think it's an interview question, right? It's like, tell me about a time that you've reduced the time it takes to do a task with AI. Walk me through how you use Copilot to create a presentation. How do you, thinking about the admin that you have after a meeting that takes time, how are you going to automate that administrative work using AI tools to free you up to have more meetings, and get in front of more customers, or whatever it happens to be, right? Write more resource consent applications. So I think that it's going to be woven into it, and employers are looking for people with critical thinking, right? That can think outside the box. They're not just going to take face value. They understand that the AI tools are there to help them with the task. They're not there to start and finish the task. They're there to help them in the engine room of getting that work done, but it's still up to a human to create that task and figure out what to do, and then to check all of those responses and add in their domain knowledge and lived experience and all of that type of stuff, to make it useful, relevant, and impactful.
Yeah, I would add to that as well. An interview question you could ask in these days is, how do you see AI in your day-to-day? How do you feel about AI? And then start unpacking a little bit of, do they see it as an AI, as a companion, as an assistant, as a peer, as someone that is working side by side with them, and they're going to basically interact with them as they would with another member of the team. I think it would be a really good indicator that they're definitely embracing it. They're not fighting it. I would also, I used to ask actually the question that Justin said about how would you automate this, or what's the last thing that you've automated? But that's primarily because I was interested in people who would have those skills already for the team. I think also these days it will be a question of finding how curious they are, and I think that's really something very hard to just measure in 1 hour interview. You probably need a few more than that, but find out if they're really someone who's curious, that it's going to have that critical thinking mindset to work with AI effectively, and not just be okay with the first response that an AI is going to give them, because that to me means that they're maybe not the right talent for your organization. They're just looking to do less with AI, not more.
Yeah, great examples. And there's a very much a difference between using AI in terms of the very basic functionality and then actually using it properly in terms of adoption and some of the things you just mentioned. Another question, and this is relating a bit to the to adoption as well. Some of the things that we hear is that there's an aging population, specifically, in terms of construction and the number of people that will be looking to exit the industry and not necessarily having the same number of people coming into the industry. Is there any advice that you'd give to that aging workforce that is a little bit nervous or reluctant to adopt AI and technology, and kind of bridging that barrier with youth that come through and have grown up with technology that are very passionate about it, because there is a bit of a tension point sometimes between these two different demographics, and maybe how that could be managed?
I can start that one, Justin, if you like.
Go for it.
I actually think, and we found this through our metrics as well, that more senior grades have more of an opportunity to really shine with generative AI. So that's different to other types of AI, but in particular, generative AI, where you interact with the AI through natural language. And there is tons of value in how you contextualize your prompt to obtain an effective response. People who have years of experience in the industry have such a huge opportunity to make the most out of it. You do have to learn how to interact with it, but because those workflows really well, if you can communicate with it effectively, you're going to be able to get so much value out of it.
Yeah, I mean, look, the quickest way to become irrelevant is hide from the use of technology. I mean, I've got 70-year-olds that come to our workshops, right? It's like there's age is no barrier, right? And arguably these AI tools are some of the easiest, tech that we've had in decades, right? You don't have to figure out some complex thing on how to use Excel or formatting stuff in Word. Like you can do a hell of a lot just by talking to to ChatGPT and asking ChatGPT how to do something with ChatGPT. So I think and I like what you were saying, Maria, around it's the combination of your lived experience and your domain knowledge supercharged with AI. So in theory, if you're a more experienced worker, then you should have a running start and a big advantage over over others, right? Because you're going to be able to bring so much more context to that engagement with AI than others will.
And I think, Hayden, if you let me add, that's not to say that people who are coming out of university don't really play a role in all of this. But I think it's a bit worrying, because I've been hearing stats about graduates not finding it that easy to find a job out of university, and it's not a New Zealand, not only happening in New Zealand but across other geographies as well. One of the things that we are rolling out at the moment in Mott MacDonald is actually licenses for everyone who joins as a graduate for the full of Copilot. Now, I think what's important to do at the same time that you give them these licenses is to, again, go into providing the right training, the right onboarding. Responsible AI needs to be at its core if it's, what you've decided as an organization you're going to do. And then also, really importantly, pairing them with more senior members of the staff. So they also learn from how they're using already this type of tool. But one super interesting aspect, if I were a graduate now, thinking, putting myself in those shoes, would be I would get myself into asking better questions and to actually get to a point where I can distinguish what's good from bad from the responses I get. I think asking better questions is such a huge skill that I would definitely try to
100%.
learn more of. So, yeah.
Yeah, great. Look, that's probably us in terms of time for today. So yeah, thank you very much to the both of you for being a part of today's Industry Insights. It's great to get your expertise, and there's so much we can unpack in this kind of topic, so we could be talking for hours. But in terms of our next Industry Insights event, our members are spoiled this week. We have our Built Environment Career Streams webinar, as I mentioned at the start, happening tomorrow. So do encourage anyone to join that. And just as a reminder, this webinar will be listed on our resources page on our website. So please, do feel free to pass it on to colleagues or anyone else in the industry that you think would benefit from these conversations today. It's been a pleasure hosting, and thank you for listening. Have a great day. Bye.
Cheers, everyone. Thanks, Maria.